now we're moving on in our foundational haircut series to a long bob. The reason why I'm going to say it's a long bob is because I want to save the hair on this baby doll to prove to you that you could practice all of these foundational haircuts on one mannequin head. You do not have to invest in a bunch of mannequin heads. This is also for salon owners who think that there's a huge expense in teaching. There is. But if you have your students or your stylists just purchase one doll head, you can actually teach all of these cuts on one doll head. Before we move on, I want to show you a little trick, because when I have my little girl here parted into our 4 sections, but it dawned on me that it's kind of hard to part down the middle of the head because your doll doesn't have reference points. So here's what I do. Take a Sharpie and right in the center of her nose, go up and make a little line right in her forehead. And then in the back of her neck, make a little line. That way, when you're parting the doll head, you have some reference points, like when you're standing back here, you can see. It's kind of tough to part a doll head. Let's move on to the bob. Now, I'm calling this a long bob because a bob lives anywhere from above the ears to above the shoulders. So there's lots of variations of a bob haircut. There's a lot of French bobs this season that are a little bit on the shorter side, which look fantastic if you got great bone structure. Then there's also longer bobs that live right above your shoulders that are excellent for still being able to pull it back in a ponytail, get some beachy waves in there, all those things. Let's look at the partings for the bob. Okay, it's a little bit different than what we were showing before on the long layers. So the black represents the 4 quadrants of the head. The dotted line represents the round of the head. So what we're going to do is first start off by sectioning down here, bringing it straight down, cutting it, sectioning a little bit more, straight down, cutting it. Then we're going to go all the way to the round of the head, straight down, straight down. We'll show you what to do about these ears. Cut it, then bring down a little bit more, cut it, and then all of it, cut it. Okay? It's easy enough, right? But I got to tell you, the bob haircut is probably one of the hardest haircuts to get right because there's a lot of precision. But we're going to help you with that today. Okay? Let's get started. First of all, you want to make sure your doll head is evenly wet. Make sure you have a spray bottle with you. I always put on a light gel. I use it as a cutting lotion. It just keeps my partings really nice. Find the O-bone, make your parting. This is your first parting. Twist the hair up out of your way. Again, you want to make sure that your partings are balanced on both sides. And what I mean by that is that both these points are equal. If you hold your finger like this on both sides, your fingers should be straight like that. So I don't know what else to say. Depending on the length of the bob, you could either have your person looking straight up. If you're going to cut it to the neck, you can have them looking straight up because you can put pressure down onto the neck and you won't have any kind of elevation. However, since we're going to do it a long bob, my long bob is going to be right here because I want to save some of the length to show you square layers next. So we are going to, I guess, pretend like we've got this straight surface here. But if you were to cut a bob, here's what I want you to do. If it was a real life person, is to hold your finger to their neck so there's no elevation at all, and then cut under your finger. Or you could take your comb and hold it and cut under your comb. And all those rules apply to when the last haircut we did is when you have your comb, you want to bend your knees and you need to be looking parallel to your comb. You want to be looking at this spine of your comb, not at the teeth. You don't want your teeth to be showing. You want this to be a straight haircut. I always start in the middle section. Bring this down. Now this is where you could hold it with your fingers. See how I'm holding it straight down? That's where, or you can hold it straight down like this and cut it as well. But because she's a doll and her little neck thing is in the way, I've got to hold it with my fingers, but I am going straight down. In fact, my fingers are underneath this little guy. Okay? I am straight down, looking at my comb, right? And then I'm cutting under my fingers, straight. And I know you guys are going to say, well, you have a little finger elevation, and I do. And I know it, but I need that so I can conserve the length. When you're cutting a true bob, you don't want any kind of elevation, so you don't want your finger under there. Hope that makes sense. Again, you're not moving your feet. Your feet are standing still. You are bending your knees straight down, straight back. You don't want to ever cut past that second knuckle. You don't want to cut yourself. Bending my knees. Do what you need to do. If you need to sit in a stool, sit in a stool. This is where you check yourself before you move on. Take a piece over here, a piece here, bring them back, and I am way off. Goodness, I think it's because she moved. You think? I don't know. But this side is longer, and you can see it's longer. So, and there we go. That corner right there. The thing with this bob is you want the whole perimeter to be the same length. Perfect. First section done. So now we're going to take down the next section. It's going to be right behind the ear. Let me show you what I'm doing here. We just cut this section. Now we're going to take this section down. It goes right behind the ear. Hold your finger right behind that ear. Put your comb in. Your comb will magically find your finger. It happens every single time. And again, make sure your 2 points match up so you have a balanced haircut. You do want to practice your partings because what I notice with a lot of brand new stylists is they waste a lot of time parting the hair because they want it to get perfect, which you should. But practice that on a mannequin or on your friends or on each other, on your spouse at home, because that's just one of those things that'll come naturally over time. But the faster you can pick up parting the hair, the faster your career will move on. Second section, we are going straight down again. We're going to bend our knees. Straight down and straight down. Notice that I am not flipping this up like this and cutting. That'll destroy a bob line faster than anything. I am cutting parallel to the floor. My shears are parallel to the floor. Double check every single time. Make sure you are spot on. We're spot on. Now I'm going to take down all 4 sections because we are going to make this section all the way to the parietal ridge. Okay, this is the curve of the head. Put your finger where the parietal ridge is. Put your thumb there. Okay, I got my thumb there. And I'm going to start in the back and I'm going to connect it to my thumb. That is the easiest way to do that. I tell you, it's like magic. Your comb will find your finger every single time. Every single time. If you don't believe me, practice it. put your finger connected with your comb. It happens every time. I want to show you something. Typically, I would never do this. I would never throw the hair into a client's face. They don't want that in their face. So when you're actually doing clients, please be aware of where you're placing hairs. You don't want hair or color or anything in their face. You want the experience to be really nice. Okay. Find the parietal ridge. Put your finger there. I've got my comb in the back. And my comb is going to meet up with my finger every single time. Isn't that nice? Look at that. Magic. It's these little tiny tips and tricks that sure make life a lot easier, don't you think? Here's a little tip. Make sure these are nice and even. Get this hair up. Make sure these are even. And if you have to, stand, look in the mirror, and go like this. And then you'll see that they're even or not. Okay. Here's another tip. It's funny when I'm working with doll heads versus working with clients, because there's things I would never do to a client, but I do them all the time to my doll head. I would never go like this and catch my comb on her ear. If it was a living person, I would always protect her ear by putting my finger there and combing over it. Nobody wants, it doesn't feel good. Nobody wants that. If you catch your comb on their ear, it hurts. Have you ever had that happen to you? It hurts. So all these little things really make a huge difference in how the customer is experiencing their haircut. Because if you're too rough on their head, they're not going to want to come back. All right, let's start this cut. And then I'm going to show you the pointers to cut around the ears. So we're going to start in the back. Again, have them look straight forward. Cutting parallel to the floor. I see my guideline under there, right? Parallel to the floor. In this case, I am going to turn with her. I'm going to find the right behind her ear. Bring that straight down. Okay, parallel to the floor. I'm really not putting any tension. I'm not pulling on the hair. I am just really just laying the hair into my fingers, letting the natural hair bounce back up, because if they have any kind of whorls or calyx or anything in a true bob, you want them to play out. You want them to take that in consideration. So you don't want to pull it straight down, because all that's going to do is it's going to pop back up and then it's going to leave you with an uneven haircut. So if they have any kind of different hair pattern, go with it. So instead of combing straight down, you might have to comb to the side or in a circular pattern. Here's where we get to the ear. Here is, I'm going to show you one way to do it on one side and another way to do it on the other side. So you can choose either way. So the ear sticks out on everybody. And what happens is if you went down and you pulled it down like this and you cut it, typically when it's dry, this part where their ear is will bounce up and you'll have just a little tiny hole right there. You don't want that, not in a true bob. So to make that so it doesn't happen, what you want to do is place your finger right above that ear and then put the hair, comb the hair over that. It's kind of hard to do on a baby doll. Put your fingers under that. What that does is it creates just a hint of length where your finger is. And so what happens is the hair that's living right directly beneath the ear will actually be a smidgen longer when it's wet. And that's what you want, because when it dries, it's going to bounce up and then it'll be straight across. So when you hear people talk about protect that area when you're cutting a bob, that's what they're talking about. We will pretend like her little ears right there. And then I'm going to hold it where it was living. And we're going to cut straight across. Another way you can do this, I'm going to do it on the other side, and you might like this better. We're over here on this side. Let me cut the back first. I'm cutting it to the back of the ear. Find that ear. Okay. All right. Is bring this down We know the ear's there, right? Bring this down where you want it. Release the pressure in your fingers and then tap it with your comb and then hold the hair again. That's typically how I do it, okay? It's just easier. And then what happens is you just cut it right there. You've released the tension, and then you can continue cutting the front. So we get this nice sharp angle. Before we go any further, what do we have to do? We have to check the hair. A real easy way of doing this is looking at the mirror, taking just these two little sections here, holding them down and taking a look. Okay, I can't see it because I don't have a mirror in front of me. Little one, make sure it's from the same part of the face. Hey, 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 see that? It's even. Straight down from her nose. Hey, we're gonna take the next section down. You good with this? I'm good with this. If she has fine hair, you might be able to take all of it down. If you can't see through the hair, then you might want to do this in two parts. I think I could see through it. Find the top of your head, the crown, okay, and so that hair goes to the back. Unless she has a weird growth pattern, and then you're going to be combing to that growth pattern like we had talked about before. But in this case, she doesn't, so that hair is going to live in the back, and then all the other hair, you comb to its natural fall. Bend the knees, parallel to the floor, parallel to the floor, parallel to the floor. I can feel her ear. All right, let's cut behind the ear first. That out of the way. All right, if you can't see that, then you would want to part it so you can see your guide underneath. I could see it. So what I'm going to do is just straight down, release that tension, right? Undo your fingers, release the tension, then put your fingers back, and then cut it. I'm bringing her hair over to the side, and then when I do that, it's going to lay a little bit longer in the front, but her hair is funky in the front. We'll flip her around, show the other side. Again, we've got her ear here. See, it's right there. Don't do that to a human. But I'm going to comb it down, release that tension, then I'm going to squeeze my fingers together. Then I'm going to bring this over, connect the dots, check the front, because you know your guest is going to check it when they get home. You know they will. Bring it down, make sure. I like to, just in the very front, see that point? That's what you're going to end up with. I just like to point cut that little point off. I just like to do that. That's just a soft way to make sure that both sides are even, no matter where they part their hair, where it lands. Okay, that's just an easy, simple trick, if you will. One more thing you want to do. The haircut's done, okay? The haircut's done. It's one length, it's a bob, looks wonderful. Here's what I always do with one length haircuts before I blow dry them. I comb everything to the back and make sure that there's nothing hanging down there, because sometimes you'll get a little tiny hair, but that's just one way to check it, okay? So now I'm going to blow dry it, and we're going to see it when it's dry. a few things about the blow dry. So with a bob, you don't really want that soccer mom look. You don't want it to curve under. I guess like news anchor women or in the 80s or whatever. A fresh bob should lay nicely with a slight bend at the bottom. And if you need to put that in there with a flat iron, you could do that. What you were seeing me do is I power dried it with my fingers first at the roots till it was about 80% dry. I went in with my vent brush because typically with real hair, I would go in and I would just go in with a vent brush and pull it out with some tension and it'll go under just fine. However, a doll head doesn't do that. So I went in there with just my round brush. And when I used my round brush, when I was drying it, I didn't go in and set it like this. I don't want big curls. I wanted to just lay smooth with just a slight bend. So see how the doll head, her hair is like coarse, it's sticking out. So I needed to force that under just a little bit. And then as it's cooling, I'm dropping it so it lays nicely. I don't want a big round curl at the bottom. I just want it to like scoop under just a little bit. Another pointer is to the curve of the head. I don't want any volume down here in this particular instance, okay? I want this to be down. And then if you want, with no volume, and then if you want the volume, you want to build the volume up from the parietal ridge up. So then that's when you go through the mohawk and maybe over direct it, get a little bit of volume in the crown so it's not laying flat. And then you notice that after I dried it, I went in there and I just power dried it afterwards. What I'm doing there is I'm shaking it up like this when I'm blow drying, and I'm roughing up the part line because you don't want a part in the hair. So that way you can play around with it a little bit. I'm also feeling to see if I got it 100% dry. If you feel any cold spots as you're doing this, that means it's still damp. You need to get back in there and dry it. You want her hair 100% dry. Nobody wants to leave the salon feeling like the nape of their neck wasn't dry when the rest of their hair is. Plus, the volume in their hair will fall. Here's some other pointers, just some tips. Okay. But say you did this on somebody and her ends were just, they just would not perform well. They're just sticking out. Maybe she's got really baby fine hair. Maybe do this on a little girl, 5 years old, and her hair is baby fine, and it's just like stick straight. I don't know if you've cut people's hair like that or not. Here's a tip. Lay their hair where it's supposed to lay, just like, and if say you see somewhere and it's not laying under, you want to take a vertical section, hold it out, straight out 90 degrees, okay? And see that tiny tip right there? You want to take your scissors and just point cut that. Just like that. So 90 degrees out, point cut, just that, nothing else. So that way when it lays down, it has this nice soft little shape. That little tip right there has saved me so many times. Like if you just do a straight one length haircut and it's just, maybe they got really thick hair and it's just like, ugh, it's just laying straight. You do that, and you got to go through and do every little section, but straight out, that little tiny tip, point cut just that fine little hairs, okay, and lay it back down. You will be amazed what that does just to that bevel of that hair. And it doesn't look layered. It doesn't look it. I mean, it just looks like magic. Okay. I don't know if you could tell the difference right there, but those two little sections is what we just did. See the difference between that and this? Huge, right? Huge. It's just a little tip that I learned a long time ago. You can do it on bangs, especially little kid bangs. You go through and just do the whole haircut that way, just the whole perimeter, just that little tiny, that's just your, they can't do that at home. That is a basic bob. Takes a lot of practice to get a straight haircut. Key points to remember: clean sections, release the tension over the ear for sure, however you want to do that. Best way to do it, pull it down, tap it with your comb, and then cut it. If you need to, rewind the video, go take a look at that. Blow drying tips. You want to blow dry 80% dry with your hands. You want it smooth. We don't want this big Texas hair unless you want big Texas hair. But for this bob, we just want a smooth silhouette, a smooth profile. So anywhere from the parietal ridge down, you're going to blow dry it straight down. Anything from the parietal ridge up, you can put a little volume in there, a little kick. If you wanted to, you can go through this and do a curling iron technique on it. It would look beautiful. But this is a classic haircut, and I hope you really got a lot out of this. Practice, rewind it, take a look at it again. It's number 3 in our series of foundational haircuts. Our next haircut's going to be square layers, which is my very favorite haircut because I utilize it in so many haircuts. In fact, I utilize it in a bob most of the time. I hope you're enjoying this. If you're liking this, give it a thumbs up. Make sure to subscribe so the next in the series that comes out, you will be one of the first to know when it hits your inbox, okay? Thanks again, and remember, when you know better, you do better.